U.S. JASSM missiles for Ukraine. What it means for its defense. The Ukrainian offensive in the south is faltering, and that's a fact. Russian minefields the size of the state of Colorado have proved to be a very serious obstacle. According to most experts, it's possible to overcome them, but with the obligatory condition of reliable air cover. And for this, the Ukrainians need airplanes because they've already lost almost all of their own during the war. After lengthy discussions, the matter has finally moved forward. The Netherlands and then Denmark promised Zelensky to transfer a certain number of F-16 fighters to the Ukrainian army, which are in their service. But an airplane by itself does not solve anything. For it to become a formidable force, it needs to be armed. In this situation, the best option is the American cruise missile AGM-158 JASSM. In this video, we'll talk about them and try to predict how they'll affect the course of hostilities. Ukraine already has modern air-launched cruise missiles in service with NATO countries. These are the British Storm Shadow and their full French analog, SCALP-EG. Moreover, it was not necessary to transfer British and French fighter jets for their operation. The Ukrainians managed to adapt their Su-24 bombers, or Fencer according to NATO codification, to these missiles. So why is Ukraine now so insistently asking the U.S. administration for JASSM cruise missiles? There are two problems. The main one is that the F-16 cannot carry Storm Shadow and SCALP-E for technical reasons. Second, obviously the stockpiles of British and French missiles are not infinite. And the war in Ukraine is not some military operation in the Middle East. The intensity is many times higher. For example, Ukrainian troops fire as many shells in a day as are produced in the United States in a month, and in England or France in a year. Therefore, we cannot do without American arsenals. So what is the American-made AGM-158 JASSM missile? It entered service with the U.S. Air Force in the late 2000s. Later, it underwent several modernizations which resulted in the emergence of missiles with enhanced performance and new capabilities. The latest modification of this cruise missile is known under the designations AGM-158B2 and JASSM-XR. The main difference from its predecessors is a significantly increased range. The Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile Program, or JASSM for short, began in 1995. Development on a competitive basis continued until 1998, when the winner of the program selected the project of Lockheed Martin. Shortly thereafter, testing of individual components began. Flight tests of the AGM-158A missile were conducted in 1999. Due to various difficulties, the missile finalization was delayed, and the order to adopt it into service was issued only in 2003. The AGM-158A is a normal aerodynamic cruise missile and is a low-flying missile with folding wings and keel. In the design of the missile, widely used composite materials based on carbon fibers, the body of the missile is made entirely of carbon fiber to reduce radar visibility. As a propulsion system used, single-shaft, single-circuit turbojet engine J402CA100, company Teledyne, CAE approved. Compared to the original engine, J402CA400 anti-ship missile Harpoon. The control system is combined inertial with correction of its accumulated error based on data from the receiver signals of the satellite navigation system Navstar. In the final section of the flight path can be used infrared homing head and hardware and software autonomous target recognition. To guide the missile to the target, algorithms of correlation comparison of the image of the detected object, targeting area, received in the infrared image with the reference signatures available in the memory of the onboard computer, which also allows to automatic selection of the optimal targeting pointer used. When launching a missile at a longer range, the problem of transmitting information about the current location of the missile arises. This information is needed, in particular, to determine whether the missile has hit the target. The existing design includes a 25W bomb impact assessment type transmitter and an antenna device on the missile body, providing data transmission to the RC-135V strategic reconnaissance aircraft at a rate of up to 9,600 BPS in the frequency range of 391.7 to 398.3 MHz. The missile is very accurate, with a maximum deviation from the target of only 10 feet. The JASSM can carry a cluster, unitary, or concrete-piercing warhead depending on the type of target. Its mass is about 990 pounds. The body's made of tungsten alloy and is loaded with 240 pounds of high-yield, low-explosive AFX-757. The bottom of the BC has vents and a patented thermoreactive retaining ring. The retaining ring is released at the temperature of about 140 to 150 degrees Celsius. This ensures that the main charge is vented through the vents, eliminating the accumulation of excess pressure and no other reaction to the effects of hazards other than charge combustion. The programmable fuse FMU-156B is used to initiate the warhead. The electromechanical fuse contains 0.33 pounds of PBXN9 explosive. The solutions and materials used in the development of the J1000 allowed it to become one of the first munitions to be certified for reduced sensitivity and at the same time receive Risk Group 1.2.3 in the MIL STD 2105 hazard classification. MIL STD 2105 defines the requirements for reduced vulnerability munitions. The requirements for such munitions were first formulated in 1984 after a series of accidents in the U.S. Navy and Allied fleets with severe consequences. In 1973, due to a spark in the brake of a railroad train carrying ammunition for the U.S. Navy aviation equipped with tritonal, a door in one of the cars caught fire. As a result of the explosion of ammunition and fire, 28 cars were destroyed for the then considerable sum of $24 million. 49 people were injured. In 1991, as a result of an accident with ammunition on the aircraft carrier Nimitz, the damage amounted to $58 million. In 1982, in the Falklands War, the anti-ship missile Exocet, which hit the British ship Sheffield, did not explode, but a strong fire in the ammunition compartment destroyed the ship with 20 people of the crew. Taking into account that such incidents, including those with huge material and human losses, have occurred before, and the main reasons were the high sensitivity of the used explosives and defects in ammunition munitions, the U.S. Navy initiated a program to rearm the fleet on low vulnerability munitions. The unified standard for all branches of the military, MIL STD 2105B, was issued in 1995. Risk Group 1.2.3 means that the warhead of the AGM-158 JASSM missile will not explode even when hit by 3 .5 caliber armor-piercing shaped charged projectiles 80 milliseconds apart and flying at 2,800 feet per second. The ratio of warhead to mass to cross-sectional area is 0.64. The J1000 warhead at 1,000 pounds per second can penetrate medium-density soil to a depth of 20 to 80 feet and penetrate reinforced concrete shelters with a total thickness of 4 to 7 feet. Shelf life without routine maintenance is up to 20 years. The missile is 14 feet long and weighs 2,250 pounds. Maximum range is 230 miles. Flight speed is subsonic, 0.65 to 0.85 m or 480 to 620 miles per hour. B-1, B-2, and B-52H bombers, as well as F-16 and F-A-18 fighters, can be used as carriers. Long-range bombers are capable of carrying 16 to 24 missiles on external and internal suspension. Tactical aircraft carry only a few each. Interestingly, due to its large size, the JASSM does not fit in the cargo bay of the F-35 fighter. This is known to limit the combat qualities of the aircraft and missile. The cost of the missile is $850,000. Even before the JASSM was finalized, the customer considered its range insufficient for some missions. In this regard, the JASSM-ER Extended Range project was launched in 2002. The modernized missile with the AGM-158B index was to have a range of 575 miles and the ability to carry new warheads. There were no other special requirements for the missile. Development of the AGM-158B took several years. Lockheed Martin managed to ensure the maximum possible unification of the new and basic product. The design of the two missiles is 70% identical, and the software is 95% identical. The customer's requirements were fully met, the design range increased to the desired 575 miles. The main task of the project was solved by increasing the volume of fuel tanks and replacing the engine. Instead of the previous single-circuit engine, a more economical twin-circuit turbo engine, Williams International F107WR105, was delivered. This modification of the missile was adopted into service in 2014. In 2018, the AGM-158C LRASM anti-ship modification entered service. The first episode of combat use of JASSM took place on April 14, 2018. Two B-1B bombers launched 19 missiles at targets in the territory of Syria. According to the Pentagon, all missiles reached their targets. The Syrian and Russian military, in turn, spoke about the defeat of most of the missiles by air defense forces. In addition, 2 AGM-158As fell and went to the Syrian army, which handed them over to Russia for study. So alas, the Russian army already knows a lot about these missiles. There's no exact data on how many AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles have been fired. It's only known that as of 2016, their number was 2,000. Of these, AGM-158A, 1,260 units, JASSM-XR, 740 units. In early 2016, it became known that Lockheed Martin was proactively studying the possibility of creating a new modification of the AGM-158, characterized by an extreme range of 1,000 nautical miles. At that time, such a project had the unofficial designation JASSM-XR, Extreme Range, and its prospects depended on the opinion of the military. The Pentagon was interested in the developments on the topic XR, and in September 2018, Lockheed Martin received an order for a full-fledged design of a new missile. Under the terms of the contract, the design, manufacture, and testing of the prototype winged work was allotted 5 years. The work should have been completed by early September 2023. The next modification of the JASSM product initially received the designation AGM-158D. Later, it was renamed AGM-158B2 to show continuity with the missile already in service. According to known reports, the AGM-158B2 design remains in development and is moving forward. It's been reported that the design had been finalized and production being prepared. At the same time, flight tests of the new missiles have not yet begun or have not been reported. Either way, however, the designated completion date is approaching. The AGM-158B2 is a normal aerodynamic cruise missile. It retains the family's characteristic complex-shaped fuselage made using stealth technology, as well as a folding low-slung wing. An increase in range is provided by increasing fuel reserves, and therefore AGM-158B2 is larger and heavier than its predecessors. The launch weight is 5,000 pounds. The exact dimensions are unknown. An improved control system was proposed for the new missile. It was to retain satellite and inertial navigation for flight to the target area and an infrared homing head for targeting at the end section. At the same time, accuracy and interference immunity had to be improved. By increasing the size and weight of the missile, the warhead was doubled. The high explosive penetrating charge has a mass of 2,000 pounds. All previous JASSM missiles are powered by the Teledyne CAE J402 short-life turbojet engine. For the AGM-158B2, due to the increased mass and size, a different engine is required. It must provide a high subsonic flight speed and achieve the specified range. Thus, Lockheed Martin and its subcontractors continue to develop the family of air-launched cruise missiles, AGM-158 JASSM, by order of the Pentagon. This time, the developers are facing several important and rather complex tasks, which require a significant redesign of the design, as well as the creation of some units from scratch. According to known data, so far the AGM-158B2 project is in the final stages of design and soon should be flight tests. As early as next year, the U.S. Air Force wants to receive the first production missiles and begin their development. It'll be known in less than a year whether the industry will be able to fulfill all the tasks within the set timeframe. In 2020, even before the design was finalized, the customer and the contractor set plans for the production of the new model missiles. Thus, the military budget for fiscal year 2021 allocated about $600 million for the procurement of JASSM family missiles. Specifically, $60 million was planned to be spent on low-rate production of a batch of 40 AGM-158B2s for testing and initial troop introduction. Growth in size and mass limited the range of possible carriers. The AGM-158B2 missile will still be able to be carried by long-range bombers, but the possibility of use by tactical aircraft is questionable. Perhaps the product will be included in the ammunition of only some fighter bombers that have the necessary payload and the ability to suspend a large munition. Light single-engine F-16, which is going to be delivered to Ukraine, will not fit. It's under the fuselage. This missile does not fit in the internal compartment and can carry no more than 2,200 pounds of armament. But we're dreaming about the AGM-158B2 for Ukraine. It'll be given, if it's given, because the decision on this has not been officially made yet, the very first modification with a range of up to 370 kilometers. Now, as we said above, a small group of modified Su-24M MR bombers, which fly as part of the 7th Tactical Aviation Brigade from the airfield in Starokonostaniv, Khmelnytsky region, is the main deep strike air force of the Ukrainian Air Force. They use Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles provided by Britain and France giving the Su-24s the ability to hit Russian targets up to 150 miles away. Military experts believe that by combining the F-16 with the JASSM, Ukrainian aviation could double its deep strike power. But these are only, alas, dreams for now. Earlier, Defense Minister Reznikov reported that Ukraine will be able to receive F-16 fighters not earlier than in 6 to 7 months, as Ukraine needs to have weapons, missiles, shells, and bombs to be used on the fighters. On August 20th, during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visits to the Netherlands and Denmark, Amsterdam and Copenhagen promised to hand over 61 F-16 fighter jets to Kyiv, 42 and 19 respectively. Denmark may hand over the first 6 aircraft before the new year. Commander of the Ukrainian Air Force, Mykola Oleshchuk, said that pilots are being trained on F-16s in the UK and Sweden and will finish their training in spring 2024. The U.S. is also ready to train Ukrainian pilots to fly F-16s if European countries don't keep up with the training process. Thus, the combat use of F-16s with JASSM in Ukraine should be expected no earlier than spring 2024. Will these missiles allow Ukrainian military to achieve a decisive turning point in the war and liberate Crimea as the Ukrainian leadership dreams? Let's say right away that this is not a miracle weapon in any way, just like the F-16. In the past, the status of miracle weapon was consistently assigned to American Javelin anti-tank systems, then to HIMARS multiple rocket launchers, and then to Leopard tanks. But we see the result. The Ukrainian liberation offensive is stalled, and the recently delivered French and British missiles have failed to decisively help the Ukrainians. But this doesn't mean that no weapons can help Ukraine. We will not consider the supply of nuclear weapons in principle. Its use by either side is madness. In several of our videos, we've made the following point, which we want to repeat here. The Ukrainian army, thanks to supplies of Western weapons, is gradually, alas, not as quickly as we would like, increasing its combat potential. And one day, we're sure of this, there will definitely come a moment when the Russian army will not be able to hold back the fierce onslaught of the Ukrainian military and will crack and crumble. And the delivery of AGM-150 JASSM cruise missiles adds to this potential. It may even allow to achieve the necessary preponderance over the Russian army. It all depends on the number of missiles delivered. At least Forbes magazine said that JASSM missiles for F-16s could be crucial for retaking Crimea without a fight. That is, the Russians will be forced to leave the peninsula because of sensitive strikes on their military infrastructure there. One last thing we'd like to say in this video is in connection with the delivery of these U.S. missiles to Ukraine. According to insider information from President Zelensky's Office of the President, the Ukrainian president, in talks with Biden in September, wants to offer him a formula for winning the U.S. presidential election. He believes the Biden administration's best campaign case would be to defeat Russian forces in Ukraine. Ukraine gets the most modern weapons, fighter jets, long-range missiles, tanks, etc., and conducts a general mobilization and breaks through the Russian defenses on the southern front in the spring of 2024. We think this information is quite realistic. Biden definitely needs a victory case after the failure in Afghanistan, the fire in Hawaii, and other failures. So we think AGM-158 JASSM missiles in Ukraine will be there. And maybe even not just with a range of 230 miles, but 575 miles. In light of this insider information, why not assume that the newest modification missiles with extreme range will be delivered? For the best possible tests. After all, they're due to begin next year, but this modification requires a different airplane. For example, a twin-engine McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet capable of carrying weapons weighing 13,700 pounds. By the way, Ukraine's already started negotiations with Finland regarding the delivery of FA-18 versions C and D, which are in service with this country. What do you think about AGM-158 JASSM deliveries to Ukraine, whether they're needed or not? Write in your comments below. Both we and our other viewers will be interested to know the opinions of ordinary people. At the end of our video, we ask you to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. There will be many more interesting videos about modern weapons and how they affect politics.